Outside the Box Reviews, Predator Week continues, and today we are taking a look at the NECA Predator Kenner Tribute Deluxe Clan Leader figure. So I get the impression this figure is kind of the unofficial fourth piece in this most recent wave of Predator figures we got because, well, it's another Kenner tribute coming right on the heels of a wave that was full of them. Except I guess this guy gets the deluxe treatment, both because he's using a larger body. This is the AVP body as opposed to the Jungle Hunter or City Hunter bodies we got on the other two. And he comes with some big bulky accessories and big bulky sculpting on him. So I guess that warrants him being a step up from the other figures. Or maybe it doesn't. I guess that's what we'll decide here today. So let's take a closer look. The primary accessory we get here is a unique spear. It's really cool looking. It's kind of a nice dark green with some kind of black shading in bits of it, and then silver parts throughout. It's based off of the standard AVP combi spear. You can see basically the same middle section and then the pole piece here, but the ends are very different. On this one end, we kind of have an axe-like design. It has very much that Predator kind of style and sculpt to this section up here at the top, and an axe blade there at the bottom. And then on the opposite side, we almost get like a saw. It has serrated teeth down here, the kind of a curved hooked blade. I guess the silver part would be the sharp edge of it, but a very cool, unique looking weapon here. And Clan Leader can either hold this in his hand, which I've noticed you kind of have to feed it into his hand by the narrow section and then slide it so he's holding the grip. The hand on this figure for some reason feels very stiff and not as flexible as some of the other Predators. Or there's a clip here on his back that you can just take it and peg it right into for easy storage. The other accessories we get are two of these green tentacles. The paint job is kind of similar to those other accessories where it's a dark green with a black wash over top of it. At first I thought this was actually going to be based off of the alien tail sculpt and just kind of repurposed, but it's its own thing. It's kind of has like 4 different ridges of spines going down the sides of it. It's a relatively long piece. It does have a bendy wire inside, so it's fully bendable. And then here at the end, where the bendy wire ends, you have this little silver cap or claws or something like that. The claws don't come apart, so maybe it is just a cap. And to go along with that, you get 2 of these little silver pieces that kind of mimic that look, or at least a little bit, and those are used as well, and I'll show you where all these go. You basically have 2 different options of where to put the tentacles. He has ports on each of his gauntlets that you can basically just take the kind of squared off end of this tentacle and plug it right in. I will say they do not make a sturdy connection in there. The gauntlet's kind of rubbery, and then these are obviously rubbery, and that is a bit disappointing. The other option is here on his chest. He has another port, 1 on each side, and it will plug in there, which I believe is where they were on the original Kenner figure, and then he had some gimmicky button on the back to make him flail around. So you have either option. I like that NECA gave us the gauntlet option because it seems more realistic than just having them come out of your chest. But because we only have 2 tentacles and 4 ports, for whatever ports you don't use, you take these small caps and you stick them in there. They make a nice solid connection because they're not rubbery, they're harder plastic. And you can have it look like there's another tentacle waiting to emerge but hasn't yet. So upon getting this figure out of the package, my first impression of the biomask was that it looked like a dragon. Kind of has the silver fangs there at the bottom, the big horns on top, the red eyes. The more I look at it though, the more I'm seeing the bunny from Donnie Darko, which in some people's opinions might be creepier, but I think that kind of makes it a little more laughable now that I just see bunny ears off the top of it. It has a similar paint job to everything else we've kind of looked at so far. Dark greens with a black wash and then silver accents. Of course, you do get the big eyes on there. We also get a very large laser sight there on the side. The lower sections of the mask look really cool. They have a lot of that mechanical look that we see on Celtic and on a lot of other Predators as well. And this kind of scaly look going up into the giant horns there at the top. And then we do also get some tubes here off to the side. I'm still sticking them behind his head like I was with the AVP Predators. This is kind of unique because every AVP Predator we've gotten, the head has either had the mask on or not. And here we can actually remove the mask, so it's interesting to see those cables come away with the mask itself. Once again, NECA has detailed out the inside. I really like that they left the eyes red on the inside and all the little detailed bits to make it look computerized and cool. But what I'm really excited about is the face here, because I think we're getting a preview of the actual AVP Elder. I think this is going to be the same exact head sculpt. Everything matches up. He has the scar there on his forehead. He kind of has a grumpier look than Scar does. This actually has a closed mouth, which is a very unique look for any of the Predators. I don't think we get too many, if any, that have a fully closed mouth and the mandibles closed up over it. I like the paint on him. It's bright orange on his skin tone with some dark blacks, reds, and reddish browns thrown in to give it a very cool Kenner-inspired look. The dreadlocks are a unique look as well. They are bright white here at the top of the head for the most part. There are some that aren't, but then they kind of fade to that bluish gray that we're more familiar with for elder predators, which basically I think seems to imply that this is a really, really freaking old predator. We also have his eyes very sunken back there and his head sculpt, and they are bright fiery red and yellow, which is also really cool. Okay, upon further inspection, there are 2 holes here on the back of his shoulder piece where the biomask will plug in, so he does actually have ports for those hoses. Here on the backpack, we also do get this big kind of shoulder pauldron that houses the shoulder cannon. This cannon's very AVP style, but it's not on a track like the one on the normal AVP Predators. We do get a hinge there at the bottom, a hinge in the middle, and then a ball joint on the top, so you can get a really good range of motion out of the plasma caster. He also has this very interesting piece here on the back, and I don't know, I haven't actually messed with the original Kenner figure for this one, so I don't know if this was part of the gimmick with the original, or maybe this was a button and it made the tentacles flail, but he has this really large backpack that goes very, very high up, way over his head actually. I like the design of it. I think it's very unique and cool looking, and I like that it kind of gives him this more elevated design, like he's special that he has something like this. We do get some hoses down here at the bottom as well, even almost some graffiti looking marks there on the side of his armor. Spin him around, we get some interesting details. We don't actually have the neck rings on this Predator, so we actually have a fully painted neck on there. It kind of has what looks like either a version of the neck rings or a necklace further down on his neck, so that's interesting. And then the bandolier going across his chest is kind of strange because it is fully rubberized. The skulls on it are rubberized, which isn't normal for NECA. The skulls actually don't look that good. They're kind of muted out in this turd brown color, but it's just very strange to me that they chose this for the armor. The armor does come down further here on the Predator's left side. We do get more of those markings. And there's this other little silvery armor piece over here on top of his left shoulder. We get pretty standard AVP type armor on his bicep. Then we have those custom gauntlets on either side. We have a gripping hand here on his right and then an open hand here on his left. One interesting thing to note is they did paint the netting on this figure. It is kind of a light brown, actually kind of the same muddy brown as the skulls, which is unusual for the Kenner line to say the least. I do like the paint underneath. It continues its same look as his head with the bright orange, reds, browns, and blacks. Coming down to the waist, we have some more rubberized skulls there on his belt, and then some different browns and greens mixed in there. We have this big heavy armor piece that's rubberized going over his crotch, an armor piece on either side that basically look like the AVP style ones, and on the back we kind of get this large rear skirt piece that matches the rest of the armor. Going further down the legs, I think these are the standard AVP shin sections, just painted differently with that green. They added silver to the knee piece. And then the feet are very interesting because he has like Gene Simmons platform boots on, or platform sandals. We have his toes there, we have the claws sticking out the sides and the back there, and there's just weird chunky heel on there, and of course peg holes at the bottom of the feet. For articulation, this Predator has a ball joint at the neck. You can look up and down, left and right, tilt side to side. Pin socket arms will go forward, back, as well as out to the side. Rotate the bicep, double jointed there at the elbow. Rotation here at the gauntlet, a ball joint at the wrist. Mid-torso ball joints, you go forward, back, left and right, side to side, as well as a ball joint at the waist with a similar range of motion. Pin socket legs will go forward, back, out to the side. Not really hindered all that much by the clothing, which is surprising. There is an upper leg swivel, but both of mine are super, super tight. And even after heating them up, I can't get them to move. So it's a little concerning that they're so tight, and I have to be very careful with them. He has a double joint there at the knee, which also swivels a little bit, and then a ball joint there at the foot. So overall, this figure is really cool. It's gonna get a recommend. I wish I could recommend it more, but there's something about this figure that just doesn't excite me as much as some of the other offerings we've gotten lately, and I can't even put my finger on it. I've gotten him to sit with his tentacles in a pose where they don't immediately fall out of his gauntlets. I think the paint job on him is really cool. I like the armor choices with him. I like the head sculpt a hell of a lot. I like his unique spear. There's just something I can't put my finger on that I just like less than a lot of other figures. Not enough to not recommend it, just not enough to be super enthusiastic about it. I do wonder at this point how many more Kenner tributes from Predator we're going to be getting from NECA. I did look at a list of all the figures that were made, and I think we've covered most of them. I think there's a couple straight up repaints they haven't done yet. There's Laser Shot Predator, which I believe is completely unique. And I do know there were some prototypes that were shown but never actually made it to stores, which might be something NECA might consider going with. And it's not like they haven't made their own original Predators before either. But as far as I can tell, there's not a whole lot from the original line left to do. And speaking of not a whole lot left to do, there's one more figure left for Predator Week, a figure that's been requested a ridiculous amount of times, and honestly, I would have reviewed him much earlier, but I couldn't find one in stores. So next video, we'll finally be getting to the Scarface Predator. But until then, make sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Also follow me on Facebook, link below. Check me out on Instagram, username Outside the Box Reviews. And until next time, this has been our Outside the Box Reviews, and Predator Week continues next.